Hi there, it's Nicole for Honeybee Stamps today, and I'm creating this Hug in a Mug custom die cut background card using just some dies from the Tea Time die collection, and then we're going to create an easy greeting with the Perfect Blend stamp set stamped on vellum and then overlaid over the background. This is a great way to use your dies to create a very quick and easy custom background. One of my favorite things to do with stamps, but is also great to do with dies. The great thing about so many of the Honeybee stamp sets is that not only are there the outline dies if you want to stamp and color the images, but there's also some dies that you can use to die cut the images in that same die collection. I almost feel like you get two sets in one. There are so many fantastic dies here. I'm going to use a combination of just the mug, plain mug die cut. I'm using the smaller of those two mugs. The smaller one is more if you want to die cut the individual mugs. The bigger one would be if you would stamp and color, and then die cut that image. And then I'm going to do a little inlay with the smaller mug. I knew I wanted to use the sentiment, sending you a hug in a mug. So very much the theme of this card was inspired by the greeting I want to use for the card. So in order to kind of accomplish this, I went ahead and die cut a bunch of the mugs from a lot of different colors of cardstock. One of my favorite color combinations is reds, pinks, and teals or aquas. I think it's a really fresh and fun color combination. This would work for Valentine's Day, but this would work for any time you want to send somebody a little hug, maybe include a gift card to their favorite coffee or tea place inside. Just a really quick and easy card. I did all the die cutting off camera to save a little time today. Then I'm simply going to use a combination of either a glue or a tape runner rather, or liquid glue to attach all of my little pieces. The smaller mugs with all the inlay definitely are going to require a little bit more work. The bigger mugs are much easier to attach. When I die cut the pieces, I die cut both mugs and two hearts from this Tea Time stamp set, or die collection rather, from each color of cardstock. This gave me a great collection of mugs and hearts to choose from. Because the larger of the two mugs is going to have a lot less detail, simply because it doesn't have the inlay, I decided to dress those up with the little hearts. So we'll be layering those hearts onto the mugs once I have the background covered. I started with an A2 sized piece of smooth white cardstock. So it's 5.5 inches tall by 4 1/4 inches wide. And then starting with a couple of mugs and working my way up and out, I'm going to fill in all those little open areas. Anywhere along the edges, I want this to look very much like just a little snippet of a background, almost like if you would stamp a background and trim it down, or a pattern paper that you've trimmed down. That's kind of the look I'm going for. So any of those little edges and corners here and there, anything that is hanging over the edge now that I'm going to be trimming off with scissors, I want to save some of those little pieces to tuck back into little edges or areas that maybe need to be filled in to really give it a complete look. And you'll see a little bit what I mean here as I finish filling in my background. The outline of each of the smaller mugs was die cut from black cardstock, and I'm starting with that and then filling it in with one of the colors. You could also keep the colored outlines if you wanted to and maybe mix and match them that way. Maybe do a red outline with a pink mug, or an aqua mug with a pink inside. I liked the look of the black outline. I thought it kind of helped make it stand out a little bit more. And I was really going for a more graphic type of feel for my background here. I love that you don't have to use your dies maybe in the traditional way that you thought when you originally get the set. Maybe you didn't think of die cutting cardstock and you simply thought of stamping the images and coloring them in or whatever it might be and using them that way. I love to try to find different ways to use and stretch my supplies to get the most out of them. And lately I have really been loving trying to find ways to implement more die cutting into my work. I love stamping and coloring. Sometimes though, I just don't feel like coloring, and a great way to kind of get around that is to use dies. There are so many amazing dies out there and lots of fabulous ways to use them. So it's just a really fun technique. Here are those layered hearts. I went ahead and put a couple on one of the mugs. I was kind of anxious to see how that was going to look. So I went ahead and popped that in place. Now, one thing that I didn't do that I kind of wish I had is instead of trimming all of this off, which I went ahead and did, and I'm using some long tonic scissors. I think it really helps in getting a nice smooth cut along the edge. I wish I would have put all of the hearts on my mugs before I trimmed them off. I think it would have helped with centering them. It was still very easy to do, but I think it just would have helped a little bit as far as recognizing the space and where to put those hearts exactly. Because when part of them is cut off, you kind of have to guess a little bit, which I'm guessing anyway, as far as where to put them or center them. But I think that if I would do this again, I would probably go ahead and adhere all these first and then trim off all the excess. I wanted my excess little pieces because I'm going to be filling in little areas here and there. And I wanted to go ahead and gather up all of those so that I could fill in along the edges. Because I really didn't need to die cut any additional mugs by doing it this way. You can just kind of fill in with all of those little, what are basically scraps. And you can see the mug background definitely kind of coming together here. I'm going to continue to finish filling all of this in. I'm using just a little piercing tool here that really pops pieces out, but it really helps with that. So now you can see I filled in all of the edges of my background, and I die cut a vellum rectangle using the A2 double stitched frames. This is the smallest frame from that die collection. Vellum is fantastic because you can, it's one of my favorite ways to add a greeting to a card. You can see through it, but you're still going to be able to read your sentiment. So I didn't want to lose any of the amazing mug background here, but I wanted my greeting to still be prominent. So I am lining up sentiments from the Perfect Blend stamp set using a stamp positioner tool. I'm using a powder tool on my vellum rectangle first, inking up my greetings with Versamark ink, and then pressing that down onto my vellum rectangle. I'll sprinkle on a little white embossing powder and then heat set this. I am a huge fan of this Honeybee stamp set. So many of their stamp sets, you can mix and match to say exactly what you want to say. And I love the little hug in a mug. And I could have just used hug in a mug, but I like adding the rest of the greeting to this and really customizing it. Now, it's a little tricky sometimes to hide your adhesive with vellum. I'm going to run this through a Xyron sticker maker because it's small enough, or small enough for the Xyron sticker maker I have, and it's going to put a layer of adhesive over the entire back of this piece of vellum. And that way, you aren't going to see any little globs of adhesive back behind. Now it didn't want to lay very nice over the layered hearts. So I went ahead and removed one of those hearts. It wasn't stuck down very good anyway, because I don't think we're really going to lose a whole lot by removing that. I'm going to take my background panel now, pop that on a top fold card base, and my custom die cut background using the Tea Time dies is all finished. Thanks for joining me today for this card featuring Honeybee dies, and stamps. The supplies I used to create this card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.